Hello and welcome back to the weekly live stream. Today I'm going to cover a topic that we've sort of covered a little bit in the past, and we've used some of my notebooks and some of my journaling, but I wanted to show you how to create a routine that is based on exactly what your goals are at the moment. So in other words, let's say, I'll tell you mine. Let's say that you want to have more endurance. Okay, great. Start with the goal. Now, how am I going to achieve that goal? I don't know, right? What can I know about it for sure? Oh, I'm multicasting here. Excuse me. Let me pull up the chat as well. All right. So, let's see what I know about it. Let's see. Endurance is definitely something somewhat related to my strength, right? Oh, I got to enter everything in here again. I guess I should have done this before, right? So the worst part about having good passwords is that they take a while to actually type in. But and now I'm identifying crosswalks. I think that's all. Cross your fingers. All right. And the chat's really just for my dad because he's the only person who ever comes and does these live with me. But we welcome him and all of his experience. So, right, talking about endurance. What do we know about it? Well, it's going to be, there's a strength component, right? If I'm not strong enough, I deal with this all the time with my back. I don't do my back exercises. So then when I sit at an odd angle for a long time, my back throws itself out. And you might say, well, Gabriel, you didn't do anything with your back. Well, yeah, but it's responsible for kind of holding me upright. And if it's not strong, and then I'm stressing it out for, let's say, an hour on the couch or something, right? Well, then I need a new couch. And also, I need to strengthen my back so that when I get up off the couch, it can handle that, right? So there's a strength component to endurance. And that's what most people focus on. There's a lot of ways to do that. There's the pencil exercises. There's the PEAT. There's a new let's see. Well, there's this little tube that I just learned about. You should usually put it on a string so you don't swallow it, but this one it's just a little piece of PVC, clear plastic tube. I guess it's not PVC. It's nylon actually, I think, but squishy, right? And you just kind of hold it there. That's one that I like to do. But okay, we can also talk about strength through trumpet playing. We can do long tones, right? A long time of playing. And we're going to do some of that today for sure. But there's other parts of it too, right? There's also perception. In other words, can I do something that's less difficult that sounds the same? Right? Let's say it's very loud. Well, if I need to play really loud for a long time, I'm going to get tired. But what if instead of playing loud, I played a little brighter, right? And a little softer. That way it sounds the same, kind of, to the audience. It's never going to sound exactly the same, but maybe it's actually better. Maybe that's what it takes to get through the gig, right? Whatever it is. And so perception is a big deal. Sometimes that's also playing different instruments. If the perception is the same kind of trumpet sound, but I can play a smaller instrument, then that might be more efficient, which is our next topic in terms of endurance, right? Efficiency. Can I play in such a way that I get the same result for a lower cost? And that's not quite the same as perception, right? If I'm changing the aspects to alter the perception of the audience, then that might so that I'm doing something different, and they're perceiving what I want them to. That's perception, right? But efficiency is that I don't want to change the thing that's happening at the end of the bell. I just want to change how I'm getting it. So you might think about things like embouchure, aperture size, and that's something I've been working on all day today, is just trying to get my aperture a little smaller. I did that off camera because it uses a lot of big mouthpieces, and while I've done that on camera before, I think it can be a little bit tedious and boring. And also there's a new gadget that's not out yet that's in my routine, and I really needed to use it, but I really don't want to talk about it or show it before the person who's releasing it actually releases it. So, but more on that. I did a little endorsement blurb for it, and I really hope that this person uses that blurb because it really is true. It has really changed my entire perception of embouchure. So but I can't reveal that because it's not mine to reveal, and so I will wait. Oh no! And now we've gotten the frozen screen again. Hopefully that hasn't been happening this whole time. I thought we'd fix this, but well, we'll see over time. I'll keep watching it, and we'll keep seeing if anything happens. So that always means I have to side-eye the camera, but you guys don't mind. You know I'm alone here by myself in the very bad weather. We're also fighting a little bit of bad weather today. This hurricane is coming sort of not through here, but nearby enough that we're getting a lot of crazy rain in big bursts. So you might hear rain on the windows. Sorry about that. But anyway, so right, we're talking about a device I'm not allowed to talk about, so let's stop talking about it. And the final thing is control. When we're talking about endurance, right? So control is another aspect that sounds like the others, right? Efficiency, perception, and control all kind of sound like the same kinds of things, but they're really not. Like we already discussed perception and efficiency and how they're different. Control is basically can you be measured enough not to cause yourself more difficulty in terms of efficiency? So in other words, if I have a wobbly bicycle wheel, that's going to be a lot more work than if it's very straight and even more narrow, right? It's easier work for me, no matter how good I am at pedaling. If I have a wobbly wheel, it's not going to be very efficient. So control sort of affects efficiency in the sense that if I'm not controlled, if I don't have control of the parts, then I'm always going to be fighting when things get out of alignment. I'm going to have to pull them back, and that's going to cost strength and cost efficiency, and probably very well could alter the perception, right? I could get a different sound, and that's not what I'm looking for. So we're going to do this game again. Wonderful. Okay, well, it's happening less often, I think, but we shall see. Like I said, I thought we fixed this by plugging it directly in, but you know, maybe this computer is just not fit for the task. I might have to upgrade eventually the whole thing. So we'll see. Anyway, so that's endurance. That's one of my goals, is to have better endurance. And so we want to go sort of, we might not just talk about that exclusively, but you think about what your goals are first, right? Just take a second right now, pause this video, write down, here are the goals that you have for your trumpet playing, right? So you might have goals like range. You might have, let's say, tonguing. Better tonguing is a goal of yours. We're certainly going to work on tonguing today because I have a lot of double tonguing to do in the coming weeks. And I want to make sure my double tongue is good. My students also work on double tonguing a lot, so I get to do it with them, but I don't get to do it alone. And so I really want to do that. And I want to review this video that we're making together later so I can hear what that double tonguing sounds like on camera. So that's very important to me. Now, there's also some other just basic things that I want in my routine all the time. So anyway, I already told you to write down your own things. Let me list a few more that I think that you might put on that list. So we've got your range, maybe articulation or double tonguing or triple tonguing, right? Multiple tonguing. We could also have flexibility on that list. That's a basic component that we probably should work on pretty often. We've also got tone quality, right? That's like one of the number one things that people need to have at a really high level. Because tones, first of all, it's nice, right? You want to sound nice. But also because it solves a lot of other problems. With the typical good trumpet sound that you hear professionals have is not only because that's a sound that we all aspire to have, right? There's not really necessarily one, but you can hear sort of a similarity of depth of tone and breadth of tone, of the kind of vocal quality that we're all looking for, that is similar, even though the actual timbre can be quite different. And but there's also a causality that's there whereby the way that they play, and one of the reasons that they're successful is X, Y, and Z, and that results in a really good tone, right? So now they still have to have that perception of the way they want to sound, but the way that they play and all the little details of tongue position and air use and embouchure posture and all that kind of stuff, they all add up to produce that tone, hopefully in an easy enough way for them to get through whole concerts and things, and in a consistent enough way for you to hear it as their sound, right? So you can think about it that way. If I go for their sound and I achieve it, I must be doing something at least similar to what they're doing. Now that might be a false dichotomy or a false causality, but why not try it, right? If I can get their sound, maybe I can figure some other stuff out. So that can be a good way to do a lot of things. But a lot of times we can do tone and then lose something else in the process, like flexibility or range. And okay, so maybe that's not the only way to produce that sound, but you're going to be a lot closer. So those are some of the things that you might put on your own docket to work on. And there might be a bunch of others. I mean, I'm not really trying to be exhaustive here. I'm just trying to give you some suggestions. So hopefully you have a pretty good filled out list right now. And now what you want to do with that list is take it back a step. How are you going to achieve said goals, right? If I want a better tone, what am I going to do to achieve it? And what kind of exercise might I do to start going down that path? So if you're not sure how it works, well, that's okay. You just have to try for it. Let's say you want better flexibility. Well, I don't know how to have better flexibility. Maybe I don't know anything about flexibility. All I know is that I want to be able to do lip slurs faster. Okay. Well, then at the very least, even if I don't know any of the mechanisms, even if I don't know how it works, even if I don't know what I'm going for exactly there, I do know that I can sort of just shoot for the goal, right? And that means that I'm going to do a certain kind of exercise. So you can go at it two different directions. One is, okay, I know that flexibility is all about tongue position and air use and embouchure posture, so I'm going to do each one of those individually, and then I'm going to add two of them together, and then the other two together, and then all three together, and these are the exercise. I'm going to do the same exercise at the end with these two, and then all three, and I'll do different exercises for each one of them. Okay, that's great. If that's the way your brain works, go for it. And I do that a lot. That is the way my brain works for most things. But if I don't know how to do it, and that's like most of the trumpet for me, right? I just don't know how to do it. I just know that I want it, right? I want better flexibility. Well, what am I going to start with then? Well, obviously some kind of lip slurry kind of exercise, but it might not even be exactly that. Instead of trying to deconstruct it from the parts, if I don't know the parts, I can't do that. So instead I'm going to deconstruct it from where I want it to be and what logical steps might come before that until I get backwards to a step that I think I can do now. Right? So this is the way to do it. And since we've played a little bit today, not on stream, but let's get to playing. So let's work on flexibility just because I'm talking about it now, right? And I'm going to put, okay, this is the right mouthpiece. So, okay, let's say I want really fast, like the Vincelers exercise that I do a lot, right? Let's say I want that to go better and faster and easier. Okay, well, good. So I can't do it. Let's give examples. I'll turn this down a little bit so you guys can see the bell. I know it's frustrating when somebody's playing and it's like this, right? You can see everything except the bell, and I don't know why that is the case, but people don't like it. So I'll try to be a better filmographer here. Now I'm just barely in frame, and that's fine. You don't need to see the top of my head. All right, so let me start at the end goal, and I'll so that we have a similar idea of what I'm talking about as the final goal, because I can in fact do Vincelers pretty fast, and then we'll back it off and pretend like we can't, and we'll find a place where somebody might start. I'm putting this on a little bit, but in the same way that you kind of have to cherry pick examples in order to illustrate your point, and then we'll get into some stuff I definitely cannot do, and we'll do it for real. But I just wanted this to be sort of a simple example that you might use at home. So without further ado, let me turn this mic off, and here are some Vincelers. This is the final goal, hopefully. Well, let's see how it goes, I guess. Okay, so let's say I wanted to go that fast. I don't know what that speed is, I can find out, but so okay, what might I do before that? If I was making progress towards it, but I wasn't quite there yet, well, the next step back, let's say, would be a slower version of that, right? Just not quite as fast. I'm not ready for prime time yet, but I'm getting it, right? So that might sound like... Okay, great. But what about a step before that? Because I can't do that yet either. Well, okay, maybe I'm not going to double up at the ends. Maybe that's the tough part. And maybe it's even slower. All right, so let's try that. Let's just go. Now we're sort of not doing in the spirit of the fast slurs, right? But that might still be the right answer, right? I don't know how to do it, so I have to just keep going backwards until I can figure out something I know how to do. And it might not be the right way to do it, but that's where we'll find the magic. Okay, I can do this, but I can't do that. So there must be a different way to do both of them, right? Something that works for both things, both speeds in this case, right? So let's try it. Let's illustrate this again. I'm going to go even slower and take out the double time at the ends of the sections. Okay, now something really interesting can start to happen here where I have to notice what is working for me and what isn't working for me. So if I feel like I'm doing a lot of work with my lips, right, well then I'm going to get changes all over the place. But if I feel like my air is really steady and my lips are kind of steady, that seems like something that would be good, right? So in other words, going fast means that I can't change. If I'm changing everything all the time, then I'm going to have to get really fast and good at changing everything all the time, and that's unlikely. But if I can do it in a way that feels like not much is changing at all, that seems like something I probably could do pretty quickly, right? Because I'm not even aware that there are changes. And so as I get quote unquote simpler, I also want the simplicity of my playing to sort of even out, right? So that it's not a whole bunch of things I'm trying to do. It's one thing that I'm doing really well. And so let's see what might I do if that didn't work, right? What if I'm not very even on this? What if I'm still struggling? Well, okay, even slower slurs, but at some point I'm going to do the slurs wrong no matter what. So quote unquote wrong, right? Maybe like where I'm tightening and loosening my lips, and that's the only mechanism happening. And I maybe feel like that's working, but it makes me tired, it makes my lip hurt. So I don't know how to do it, right? Well, in the spirit of trying to find one way to do it that's not a big change, right? Something that's a little smoother, maybe I fill in the gaps. Maybe I just play some scales, right? We'll just play in C major for a second, right? And see if we can find some commonality and then do the slur, and maybe we'll get somewhere. So we're looking for a way to do it with less change, but we need to walk ourselves into it sideways. I don't know how to do it already, so I need to discover that somehow, and I might do something that has more similarity, more evenness to it, like a scale, in order to find where those 2 points are and then connect them with a slur, right? So connect them with the scale and then try to just kind of keep it that way as I do a slur, and maybe put like 5 notes in between and then 1 note in between, and then, you know, my dad says I struggle every day, and that's right. We all really do. And it's actually through that struggle, through overcoming these little struggles that we're talking about, and they may seem very big, but it's little things like this that make a huge difference as you scale back up, right? So let me show you that. So I'm filling in the gap. If it was, as I went down, it was a lot harder for me because I didn't really have the ready embouchure. That's one of my things I need to work on. And so I reset a little bit, but then I needed to play a chromatic scale because I wasn't ready for the full whole steps ever, right? So that's the kind of simplicity I'm talking about. Now that's simple to me. That might not be the same to you, and that's fine. You should do what's simple to you, something that you know you can do right now. So let's quickly scale this all back up and try to get it all connected together. And well, we haven't done the other ranges of Vincelers yet, so we should probably do that. My dad says he's off to jazz band. Have fun at jazz band, Dad. Send me a video if you want. All right, so let's scale this back up. And of course, it won't happen all at once. It might happen over many, many practice sessions. But this is the kind of building your own routine out of your goals that you can do. And then we'll get into my goals just to show you what I'm working on. And you can see how I'm building different types of things. And I use this word building. I've talked about this on stream before. Some of my students don't like this word because they don't understand what I mean by it. And at first that was really difficult for me because I couldn't understand how you couldn't understand it, right? Because it seems a very simple concept to me, but that's just that's my privilege speaking, right? That is my point of view being so narrow that I can't understand someone else's, right? And I immediately identified that, but that didn't solve my problem of like, well, what do I say instead? So what do I say instead is, well, I try to explain it first of all, because I don't think that there's any kind of, it's not privileged information in that sense, right? It's just my own descriptors that I lack of vocabulary. And so if I explain what I mean a little bit, usually that helps a lot. But what we're doing right now is the building process. So I'm starting from somewhere that I know I can start, and I'm growing my abilities, keeping that which is stable through all the next steps, and then also being willing to change what needs to change in order to make the next step possible. So that's what I mean by building, and I'll use it probably the rest of this video a bunch because I can't stop thinking of that as the term. But if you're ever confused by that, that's what it means, is starting somewhere simple and then gradually growing in complexity of the thing you're doing, but keeping it simple in terms of the way that you're approaching it, right? Keeping those, normally what happens when we fail to do something is we've failed to do some simple thing on the trumpet that we otherwise normally do, right? Now, if you don't do anything simple on the trumpet well, you might feel like you'll never get it, but that's not true of anyone. Everyone can do a long tone pretty well. Everybody can work on their embouchure to get a better, right? There's some level that you can do well, and if you start all the way at that first one, and you walk your way through into more, I don't even want to say more complicated steps, but more steps closer to your goals is the whole point of this video, right? Then and you don't take too big a step, then you're gonna find yourself like actually in a really good spot where you feel like, hey, I sound pretty good, and you want that. If you suddenly say, that doesn't sound too good, well, then you've either played too much today or too much in a row, so you haven't been resting enough, or that's just the limit of what you're going to learn today, and that's fine. Then you put it down and you go watch a movie or something, right? So okay, let's build back. In other words, let's go from our ability to our goal in a few quick steps, even though these steps might happen normally over a series of days or weeks or months. Okay, so a lot of things happening there, but basically you can see that I'm always responding quickly to a problem that I'm feeling and hearing and experiencing through the trumpet, and I'm saying, okay, well, what could I do that's sort of like that, but not just try again? Now, if you don't have anything, then just try again, right? It just takes a little longer to do it that way, but you can still just try again and try to make progress every time. It can be frustrating because sometimes you don't know what that progress you don't know how to achieve that progress, so you try again and it's worse this time. You try again, it's better, and you're like, well, wait, what? I don't know what happened. But if you try it enough times, you'll start to notice the thing that makes it better, and then you can do that on purpose. So that it's not all hope is lost if you can't think of things to do that are in between the step you can do and the step that you want to get. And maybe it doesn't have to be linear either. Maybe just playing some long tones and getting your air to work better, and then all of a sudden you can do lip slurs. That doesn't seem to go step by step, but there is an A and a B, right? There's something to do with your air maybe, or your embouchure that makes this other thing something that you're capable of, right? So just keep track of that. That's what a journal is really good for. Now, I haven't been doing a good job of writing in my journal, but that was about 10 minutes of stuff. So I mean, it certainly should be, yeah, it's at least 10 minutes of well, something. I don't know what to write down. I guess I'll write down Vince slur build. And I should indicate that I am on stream. On stream. So I need to work on endurance, but some of the things that will help my efficiency and help my playing in general, and it doesn't have to be I'm not going to just do a routine for just one thing, right? Endurance might be a long-term goal for me, but I have many, many other goals. And so let's go through some of them. One of the things you can do with a journal that I've talked about before, but that I'm referencing here, or that rather utilizing here, is I just keep pages of things that work, or things, in this case, this one says things to keep in mind. So we're definitely going to use that one. This one down here is just a one-stop shop of play with a solid sound. In other words, this sort of idea that your legato playing should be compelling on its own without vibrato, and that this is a good thing for your endurance and your support and your musicality, even though it sounds on the surface level like that it would be very boring. But you can always add vibrato to it if you can do it. But it takes more physical commitment to do it, to play that way. So we're definitely going to do that one. This one is a list of things to add to my routine. We've been through this one before on the stream, but things to add to my routine that I'm not probably doing all of right now. Habits that I want to build. Build again, there's that word. Building habits, though, is more like doing them a lot so that they become automatic, right? And they overwrite the old bad habits, right? So we want new, better habits that make the old habits impossible. You can't not do something is one of the things I say a lot. You can only do things that make the other things impossible, right? So I often use the example, you're seated, sit down, now stop sitting. And you think like, okay, and you go, well, but I didn't tell you to stand up. Oh yeah, because but how do you not sit? I guess I could scoot off the chair and stay like crouched, but now I'm still kind of standing. So standing is just the opposite of sitting in this case. Very simple example. And of course I would just stand up, but we don't always recognize those those dichotomies in trumpet playing. And so when we see them, we want to use the new thing to overwrite the old thing that we don't like as much. So I don't know which one of those standing and sitting is, but anyway, so there's a lot of habits here that I want to work on, and then some tips. And actually the things to keep in mind and the tips are the same types of things, right? So lower corners firmness, that's down here for me, equals good low response. That's something that maybe if I have trouble in the low register, I'll use that. Blow through, that's always a good one, right? I was not doing that back then. And embouchure posture, and that goes back to some habits that that's what I'm working on today. So embouchure posture is for sure one of the things. Now, I also, on the things to keep in mind, perfect turnaround, we're kind of goosing it a little bit, I think, today, so we might work on that, along with a ready embouchure, so something that can respond the way that I want. And that's really important. That's the one that I'm going to do on stream. In fact, let's do that. Rather than just run through this list, I'll cherry pick from the list as it makes sense. Again, we do want to get endurance happening, and we do want to play with this kind of solid sound. And I have some excerpts of music picked out rather for that. Oh, I see Jasmine C2 says hello. Hi. I hope you are one of my trumpet students or a trumpet player, and welcome to the stream. So, how are we going to work on this perfect turnaround with the ready embouchure? And there's another one we can do, which is anchor tongue position. It's also called dorsal tonguing, and it's going to take your tongue and put it behind your bottom teeth with the tip down, and then when you tongue with the next part of the tongue instead of the tip. So instead of going ta ta ta, you're going ta 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 ta. I sometimes call it pizza tongue, and that works really well on piccolo trumpet, but I try to do it all the time because I heard Jens Lindemann talk about it, and he says he tries to do it all the time, and I thought, yeah, I do it on purpose for some things, but I don't do it always. Why don't I do it always? And the truth of the matter is there's a lot of reasons people can't do maybe what they want to do ideally. So if I might not be capable of doing anchor tongue position all of the time, but if I try to do it all the time, then there will be fewer exceptions, right? So, and I want that consistency, right? Back to the efficiency and control aspects. If I can control my tongue position, then I'm going to get the same kind of efficiency. And so back to endurance, that's going to matter a lot. So our turnaround is going to help us get the most out of our air. Our embouchure readiness is going to make sure that we're not out of position. So that's maybe an efficiency and control kind of thing. And it's also going to help us get the sound that we want, which is our perception, and it will mean that we won't use as much strength, which is that's called efficiency. And then what I say, and our anchor tongue position is also going to help us with our efficiency and perception. So that's just talking about endurance. This is important for almost everything, but just to bring it back kind of to somewhere we've already talked about. So what are we going to do? So now I know my goal. I want a ready embouchure with perfect turnaround and anchor tongue position. How am I going to... Ultimately, I want to be able to just do those things when I play the trumpet. So can I do it on one note? Let's find out. Maybe I'll start there, and then I can't do it, or I can, and then I can go one way or the other. It's good to just pick an arbitrary starting point that you think you might be able to do and give it a few shots, right? If you don't do it right away, maybe try 3 or 4 more times, and then if you don't get it, well, move backwards. Like I said, whatever's simpler to you. If you do get it, then see if you can get it a bunch of times in a row on purpose and then move the other direction. But here we go. Ready? Ready, embouchure. So you might notice a couple of things that I'm not doing well, but I'm working on a lot of things at once, right? So it's okay if some of them are not perfect yet. I do want to eventually get them all right. So I've got my tongue in the anchor tongue position. I'm not convinced that I can do what I want to do and breathe with it in that position already. It might have to slip into that position at the end of the breath, but then that sounds complicated. So I'd rather not do it if I can help it. My embouchure is certainly ready. It might be a little overset. So I was experimenting with either bringing it in a little bit more and sort of making sure that the aperture stays small, or relaxing it and letting it maybe open up a little bit, but seeing if that gets me a little easier response. I also noticed that we just said perfect turnaround. We didn't actually say what that means. The turnaround is the breathing in and then immediately out. I was making it immediate, but I was also heaving against my support, and I really should be breathing into my support so that it just turns around without a jolt. And so that's what I'm going to work on as I continue here. I also can add in release with a taper. I'm sort of just stopping the breath, and that's a bad habit that a lot of people have, and I get into when I do too many alarm clock tones, which is one thing, or medium tones, in other words, short things where you're going to breathe and start again. It's easy to stop the note by stopping the air by breathing in. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. So I want to release the air and then breathe. And I also want to heave less, so I'm going to breathe it into support. And everything else was going pretty well. All right, so we made some progress and we moved it around. I played a different note because I don't want to get stuck on just playing B flat all day. That's going to drive me nuts. So I changed the note. Arbitrary again, I just chose a random note that I thought I would do better on. And a lot of times you just have to trust your intuition on that kind of thing. But okay, so I've got my readied embouchure. I've got my anchor tongue position. Most of the time, I'm doing a much better job of turning around the air in a less kind of jolty kind of way. And I'm releasing about 50% of the time. That'll be easier to do when I'm playing real music and not just an exercise, so I'm not going to worry about that. Other things that I have written on this gauge air is there's a gauge that I have that shows me how much air I'm blowing, and I want it to be snappy. I don't want it to go, and I think we're doing maybe too much of that where we're going, you know, so I think the gauge air is happening pretty good. Lower back of tongue, that's one of the things that I worked on earlier today. And then that my muscle use is sort of well, it's not, I guess not three-dimensional, but two-dimensional, that I have two vectors, so that I'm pushing the lip in towards the center to control the aperture, but that I'm also controlling it by these other muscles out here. And you might say, that sounds like a lot of work, Gabriel. Why don't you just relax? Well, that's great if you just want to sound like you sound, but if you want to sound like anything you want, then you're going to need more control than that. Not to mention that it tends to have a sort of flabby embouchure. I mean, I can show you and you'll say, wow, that seems to get a lot better response, a lot easier. It does, but it's easy for it to get pushed around. So let me show you why I don't have just sort of a relaxed embouchure, but why I want the muscle vectors to be out. Like, in other words, how do I do this on stream? So pulling out this way as well as pushing in that way, right? And so these are kind of pulling apart away from each other. And you can do that because of the orbicularis oris being round, it can contract, right? While these other muscles that are attached to it can pull it back out and sort of change the angles of it, right? So it's all very complex in there. I don't pretend to understand it really. I just know that when I have all that going on, my buzz on the cutout is better. And I can demonstrate that. So relaxed embouchure. I'm just not very good at this, so I'm not intentionally making it sound crappy. It's not the way I normally play, so you can get very good at this, in other words. But on the trumpet, that sounds fine. Oh. But as soon as you get out of that range, whether lower or higher, the sound starts to change. And it's because your lips aren't doing enough to kind of keep the pressure contained in the mouthpiece. So they start blowing open. So you have to start adding tension. And so you can get quite good though at directing the airstream and not adding that tension all the way up to about high C or D. And then after that, I haven't seen anybody who plays regularly above that doesn't have a more muscular setup to begin with. As well as most orchestral players play that way. So again, we're just kind of emulating things that we see. It's not necessarily the answer, but I want to figure out anything I can that's going to get me closer to my goals. And so this is one of them, that's all. And you should have your own things to keep in mind list, right? Don't use mine. Mine's stupid for you. We have totally different dentition. We have totally different muscles. We have totally different jaw shapes, right? We have totally different perceptions of our own, what we want to do. In other words, totally different goals. So you know, you don't have to do my list. Don't do it. But I just want to show you kind of how I do what I'm trying to accomplish, and then you can apply that to your own playing, right? So, yeah, that's got a bunch of the things on this list. There's something small. Let's look at that. But bottom lip tucked in enough or pushing out. Yeah, bottom lip. My bottom lip, when I was writing this list, my bottom lip was a huge concern to me. I couldn't decide if I wanted to button it in and really keep it firm like that, which seemed to work, or if I wanted to pucker it out, which also seemed to work weirdly. And I think the answer now for me is it's both, but in a very complicated way that new device that I can't talk about is really helping me solve. So again, I know that's maybe not very satisfying, but stay tuned, and when the new ones come out and the person releases them, I will definitely be using them on stream. Okay, so let's play with a solid sound. We haven't worked on double tonguing, but I think these things that we've done so far, we want to put them to the test in some musical contexts. And this solid sound idea, I sometimes call it Chicago Sustain, because the Chicago Symphony is the group that I listened to in college. And continue, obviously, to listen to, but I went to concerts weekly to try to absorb like what's going on there. And one of the things that they do so well is really sustain the energy of the sound all the way to the end. And it doesn't matter if there's a taper or not, right? There can be a taper of the sound, but the energy does not taper, and the production does not taper. It's the amount of sound. In other words, they're sustaining the sound, whether that sound goes away or not, and as opposed to letting it back. And I can demonstrate that, I guess, briefly, but then I want to play some. I've got the Pluie de Trois, which is the shower of stars. It's like a meteor shower. It's a Emil Waldteufel cornet solo that is actually kind of hard to come by, but it's on the Håkan Hardenberger at the Beach album, and I love that album, and so I finally tracked this piece down. I have it for brass band, and that's the only version I have of it. But anyway, so we'll play that a little bit, but let me just first demonstrate. So if I just let the sound down, it sort of dies away, and there's nothing wrong with that. I got a little bit bad. I didn't know what note I was going to play, so I got a bad start. But now if I make the sound go down, if I hold the sustain of the sound but also taper it, then we get a different kind of sound. And it may be very nuanced. You might not notice a difference on the stream, but I promise you it's there, it's palpable, and it keeps your support more regular. Going back to endurance, right? That control aspect. If I have fewer things changing all the time, it's more streamlined, right? I don't have to, I'm not spending my strength and efficiency or changing my efficiency all the time. I'm just keeping it right down the middle. So that's kind of why we're trying to do this. And you can tell I'm not very good at it, and that's why I need to work on it. But we're going to work on it through this Pluie de Trois. It's also going to give us a chance to do some double tonguing later. And so we won't start at the beginning of the piece. We'll start at the first sort of theme, or it's probably really the introduction, if you had to say. There's a pre-introduction that has a bunch of fast stuff that we'll do later. But anyway, this is at letter A if you're looking at it at home. I was getting a little tired there, and I'm noticing things, right? So here I am practicing in front of you, and I'm trying to show you kind of how I would deal with things. Now, I just put it to the test. So if I do that a lot, and if you're watching this at home, you might do this too much, right? I'm just going to play it through and see what happens. And that's fine. You can do that. I just did that, right? But why? What's the value? Well, for me, I notice my top lip feels a little like it wasn't in the mouthpiece enough. I don't think that I kept turning around the same aperture. In fact, I think in an effort to keep the air going and to save my lip a little bit of pucker strength use, I kept widening the aperture so that the air would flow more smoothly. Now, that might be a solution if your aperture is too small, but it also might be a liability if that is just sort of solving a local problem but not achieving the goal that you're after. So, what am I going to do about that? Well, I need to do something simpler. I can try again, right? I can always try again, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I need to make sure that I don't try again too many times and still just keep reinforcing the same bad habit that I just noticed. So, but the point is that when you just run through things, you need to be, at the end at least, and certainly during it, if you can, you need to be noticing things that you want to improve, as well as just making music. If everything's going well, your only job is to make music. But when things don't go exactly as smoothly as you want, that's when you need to pay attention, because doing it again is not going to solve that problem. So for me, if that's the problem, how am I going to solve it? Well, I'm going to set up a smaller aperture. And we're going to do this, well, I don't have to take that out. We're going to do this with the cutout. We also might rest more, right? I never rest enough on stream because it's boring for you, but it is on my list to rest more, and so I ought to do that. But for now, we'll solve this problem, and then maybe people will ask questions. There's actually 3 of you on the chat right now, and so I would love to have some questions that I can answer during a short break so that I don't play my face off. It has been 47 minutes, and normally I only go about an hour, but this is my practice session today. I like I said, I did stuff off stream, but anyway, so please type your questions in the chat, and I would be happy to answer whatever I can. Anyway, so we're going to solve this, getting our top lip out over and over again by building in the sort of feeling of it on the cutout, and making sure that we can apply that to the trumpet, and then we get our sound back. It's going to take away a lot of the depth of our sound to make the aperture smaller and put more top lip in, but that doesn't mean I can't achieve that sound, maybe by some other means, with the lip still in there, right? So, and again, I don't need to know the answers to those questions. I just need to start with what I can do and then try to figure out what I don't know yet by just moving in that direction, whatever that means. So, I'm putting my top lip more in. I'll have to stop talking. I noticed earlier that bringing my the corners of my embouchure in this way more was also helping me achieve this. So another thing that I wrote down on my things to keep in mind is even pressure throughout the ranges. And so that time I had more lip in the mouthpiece. I kind of got my good sound back. I didn't start there, but I had to open up in the back of my tongue position to get there, and I did. And then that meant that I had to hold here a little more, right, on the top left and right corners outside the mouthpiece. And then I noticed all of a sudden, hey, I'm pressing into my top lip a little more in the middle high register. And that's not going to work. I need to keep the pressure even, because if I keep it even, then I can press straight onto my embouchure and it'll keep being whatever it is. So if you have a little jagged tooth somewhere, then it'll exploit that more. If you have very flat teeth, then it'll just press and stay. One good reason that flat teeth are a good way to play trumpet, not the only way though. And then of course, if I have a spot that's much higher than the rest on my teeth, then trying to avoid pressing into it more is going to keep the swelling down, right? So I need evenness of pressure, and that will actually cause me to, if I have unevenness in my teeth, it'll cause me to use the other teeth that aren't the high point in order to feel like it's even. So even the lie is a truth in and of itself. So I'm still waiting for some questions. Please questions. I've bought a lot of embouchure books lately, and I've been looking into them. They all really focus seemingly on the position and the strength. And I think that is because those are things that are easy to work on, that are really critical, right? If you have a bad position, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're going to run out of strength very quickly. If you have a good position, then it will help you use your strength, but if you don't have any strength, then that position won't help you enough, right, by itself. And so they tend to work on those things. I mentioned the pencil trick earlier, the pencil embouchure builder. That's just taking a pencil. This one is very old and has a bad eraser, but it's a very good Eagle chemi-sealed turquoise 4B for those of you following along at home. And because the eraser is bad, I can put it in my mouth. Because I don't ever need to erase with it, it won't do that. It's dead. So you just put it in your mouth, not through your teeth. Although, if you wanted to start that way, it's a good way to sort of get the muscles wrapped around. Actually, I guess I should face you. But I'm going to keep it outside my teeth so it's as long as possible, right? And I'm just going to try to hold it as straight as I can. And you can change your jaw position to make it straighter, but then you're going to get TMJ, you're going to get all kinds of bad stuff. I'll show you what it looks like. And some books actually recommend that this is okay. Some books say don't ever do that. But anyway, I'm working on them now. I'm reading them. They're way outside my comfort zone because the strength and embouchure stuff is, you'd think that every trumpet player needs to work on that. But if you started playing when you were 3, you've always kind of had an okay strength and embouchure setup for most of your life. So it's not something you needed to necessarily work on that way. You wanted to work on your flexibility and your high range and your ability to play the trumpet for a long time. And that's how you work on endurance with that setup. So I was very lucky in that sense, but it also is a huge gap in my knowledge that I need to know these things so that I can help other people now. And I've said this many times, but I'll say it in the middle of the stream where probably no one will catch me. If we were really, really good teachers, we would be able to teach people things that we don't ourselves use, but that we think will benefit them, and we would guess right most of the time. So in other words, if this pencil thing is something that one of my students needs to do because they don't have maybe a strong enough setup, or maybe just because it will help focus their muscles or something like that, I should be able to healthily recommend it in the right proportions and the right amount because I understand it, even if it's not something that I myself would do. And that might seem counterintuitive, but it's a lot more like, we often talk about teaching as kind of, there is somebody. Okay, I'll answer your question, Dave, in a second. It's a lot more, we sometimes talk about like what we do after a lesson. I'll say, well, you need to do these lip slurs and this, this exercise, and I want to hear Pluie de Trois and the Arbin's book, this page. I do that every lesson. And it's like I'm writing a prescription. Well, doctors write prescriptions. That's the obvious analog there. And I'm not a doctor of anything, but you're trying to cure what ails somebody, right? And so what ails one person might be different than the next patient you have, and so you're not going to give them the same medicine, right? And it's also not what's wrong with you. You might have a different ailment or none at all, and so then what would you even recommend if you could only recommend things that you would do yourself? But we have to be very careful about that, because if it's not something that I have experience with, then I don't really know what I'm recommending, do I? So that's what books are partially for. but it's also okay to experiment with those things. In the trumpet world, right, it's not actual medicine. Although the Clark book does say something about medicine where don't do too much, right, of anything, because where, you know, it's like, he says it's like where a spoonful of medicine will cure, and where a bottle full or something will kill, or something like that. It's in Clark #1. It's at the top of the page in the technical studies. You can read it for yourself. That's a bad misquote, but same kind of thing, right? So we can do little bits of these things to understand how they work, and then we can, you know, actually assign them, and then we can learn through the experiences of our students. Does this work? Is this safe? What did you do exactly? And if they journal really well, then that feedback loop is important for future students. So, okay, what does Dave say? What would consciously thinking more top lip in the mouthpiece help with endurance? It can, if that's your problem, right? So that's kind of what we're saying. You might have just joined, and so what I just worked on is I was turning around and feeling like as I was playing, I was sneaking more and more top lip out of the mouthpiece. But so when I put more back in, then I noticed that I was also just adding pressure to the top lip. And that those two could be linked together. They almost certainly are, right? So what I would actually do next is I want my high range to feel easier, right? I want to redo the way that I'm playing the trumpet, because it's not very efficient if I can't play above the staff without crushing my top lip or sneaking lip out while I'm playing around, right? And maybe this solid sound sustain thing is tricking me into using my air the wrong way. But if it's one of my goals, I need to continue to do it to try to figure it out. So I can sacrifice it for a temporary gain, but I need to be able to put it back later. So I think that's what we'll do next. I'm going to work on. I'm going to try to keep more top lip in the mouthpiece. Essentially, the answer to your question, Dave, is that if I take top lip out of the mouthpiece, that's going to make my endurance worse, right? Because it's going to widen my aperture and flatten my lip, unless I had too much to begin with. So in my case, that is the case. I needed more in there, not less, and so it sneaking out while I was playing was hurting my endurance. So thinking about putting more in is absolutely the solution. But sometimes what you think you're doing and what you actually are doing are not the same thing. So just thinking about it might work, and you should try it. And then if that doesn't work, then you have to really assess what's going on. So that's what we're doing now, is that, okay, I feel like the pressure is the problem more than sneaking out. Maybe the sneaking out was my lip trying to protect itself from the pressure. So we're going to keep more bottom lip pressure instead of more top lip, right? We're going to be conscious of that. But we're also going to just do a little bit of a high range study to make sure that our high range is really pretty easy. So let's do that. Oh, I don't know what I'm... Yeah, good. So normally when I do this, I have a little more wide open aperture. Now that I'm keeping it smaller, I'm having trouble keeping it open in the high register. So I'm getting all this crud as I go up, and that's really good. That's what I need to deal with. I did this the other day, and I haven't played double C in, oh gosh, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years at least, maybe 10. I don't really build it every day because I don't need it every day. And so as I get close to the top of my register, I'd rather play more etudes and things than just one more double high C. But as I was building this smaller aperture this week, earlier this week, I just kept going up, and double C came out, and luckily I got it on videotape. If you want to see it, I'll send it to you. But yeah, I need to keep my aperture small, but then that doesn't work the same as the old aperture setting for all the registers, right? So basically now, I used to be able to get away with keeping, like, tightening down on my aperture and it wouldn't quite touch. Now it's too close, so I actually have to keep it firm but not closer together in the high range. So we need to do more of this, and then we can back it off to the Pluie de Trois sort of lyrical study that we're doing. Now see, that was a good aperture setting because it worked for the whole range, but I still had to control it. I still had to keep it, again, back to our endurance, control. I had to keep it in the same place so that it had the same efficiency, and so that I was using my strength in a similar manner. So okay, there's a little bit of that. We're going to do one more at least and do A flat. And then I want to try to immediately come back to this. So I'm not going to turn the mic back on in between. I'm just going to try to apply it to this sort of medium-high area of Pluie de Trois. It's not very high. It's the top of the staff, but I want to make sure that these things are connected because this is working pretty well. So we got about halfway there. I'm playing way too loud for this excerpt, but it's all about shapes. And again, we're working on endurance in a sort of overall way. And so I want to make sure I'm pushing the boundaries of that so that I do build strength. You build strength by using it and then resting enough to heal, as well as, you know, the way that strength trainers do it with the right amount of protein and you know, sometimes other supplements. I don't really understand it all, but I just do what people tell me. And it seems to work. I don't do anything extreme though, because I don't think that we work out this stuff enough to be really extreme. If you do, then okay, then it'll probably work for you too. But we're not lifting 500 pounds with our face. We're lifting about 15 pounds per square inch, which is a lot in the high. That's the highest register. But you know, 15 pounds. I can lift 15 pounds with my arm, and I don't need to take like a special kind of workout shake in order to build muscle from that. I can just lift it a bunch of times and it'll be fine. So anyway, so we worked on our high range, and that's maybe going to help us do this. But I do still feel tired, and that's maybe because I've been playing for an hour, and I played for about 40 minutes before this on big mouth pieces and other things. And so I don't want to overdo it. I'm going to sit here and just kind of chill out. If anybody has questions, you guys are 26 seconds behind when I talk because that helps the stream stay even with my sort of unstable internet connection sometimes that we all have, right? Not especially unstable. But so if you have more questions, I'll see them in the next 30 seconds, and then I will try to answer them right away. But let's see what we're going to work on next. And we might build these things together. In other words, try to tether them together one after the other so that we're building one kind of trumpet playing. Or we might just do other things, right? And just leave these things for tomorrow. That's generally what we do with things, is like, okay, I worked on my high range. I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm just going to play the trumpet the best I can. And almost always that is the best way to do it. But this is about building your own routine, trying to reverse engineer your best routine from your goals. And so when you think about what those goals are, you have to think about what you're doing to try to accomplish them, and what kind of exercises might help you to work on whatever that is, right? So for me, I'm working on my top lip, I'm working on my aperture, and I think some soft playing would really help me, because that's definitely small aperture, but it doesn't mean that it's less efficient. And Pluie de Trois is in fact still that. There's other stuff we can do in that same way, but maybe if I focus on the soft rather than the solid sound aspect of it, and then I can put that back if that goes away. Or maybe it'll stay, who knows. We also haven't done any double tonguing, so we can get into that as well, but let's play Pluie de Trois softer. And I'm not convinced that I can come in on an E on top of the staff. And this is how finicky trumpet playing can be, right? You might say, Gabriel, you're supposed to be a professional. How can you not come in on E on top of the staff? I don't know, because I can't, right? Get off my back, don't worry about it. But I can learn to do it again, right? If I can't do it, we've been working on perfect turnaround, ready embouchure, anchor tongue position, and even pressure, right? As well as gauge air and breathing against support, right? Those are all things that we've already worked on today, and all of those need to eventually be able to get me an E in the staff. I would say at first maybe with a breath attack that's soft. But okay, how am I going to get there? Well, I'm going to do other notes first, and I'm going to work my way there, and then I'm going to practice there, right? And practice is hitting the ball over and over again, right? It's batting practice is that you don't just hit one ball perfect. You hit a bunch of balls wrong until you really get in your swing, right? The swing of things. So we eventually got to that E. Didn't sound great, but it was very soft. I don't know if you can tell on the stream because I'm very close to the mics, but it was very soft. It was a little crummy of a tone, but then I want to see if I could move it around. And it looks to me like the moving is also a component here of why I'm slipping my top lip out. So another thing for me to work on. And instead of working on it right now, because I could get confused very quickly, I'm going to write it down, right? I'm just going to write it in my notes on my journal, and I'm just going to write work, colon, don't pull out top lip for downward flexibility, okay? And now I don't know if that's the real deal. I don't know if that's what I actually need to do, but that will get me back to here so that I can work on this again. Currently, though, I'm just going to keep working on my soft playing, right? We got another question in here that I would love to answer. So I'm currently working on I'm currently working on creating a daily routine. Presently, I have so much to work on that I swap routines to every other day with working on other stuff the days in between. Is there a better way? Probably not, is the answer that I would give you. There's a great, I'll tell you a quick and somewhat infamous story in my studio. And I'll sit down for it even. But so I was told by my teacher in undergrad to make a routine, right? To write out a whole routine, everything I want to do every single day, right? Or rather, everything I want to work on. And so I had color change, I had soft playing, I had loud playing, I had low playing, I had high playing, I had flexibility, I had high range as opposed to just playing high for a long time. I had excerpts, I had lyrical studies, I had technical studies, I had multiple tonguing, I had all these different things. I mean, I could go on and on and on, and I did. I had a big, giant piece of paper that was like oversized, like an artist's, kind of a sketchbook canvas. It was this big, it's huge. And I went all the way down the page. And then he also told me that I needed to know how long I wanted to work on each of those things. And so I wrote all the minutes on the side, and he got this piece of paper from me in the next lesson, and very quickly in his head added up all the minutes. And he said, Gabriel, this is 74 minutes long. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, and there's no rest in it. And I said, oh. And he said, well, so you think you're going to play for 74 minutes straight without a rest? And I said, well, I guess not, And he goes, okay, so now go back and put all the rest in, and then you'll find out what you really need to do every single day. And so I did that the next week, and I don't remember how long that one was, but it was basically way over 2 hours, right? I mean, way, way over 2 hours. because I figured after high range I need to rest a little longer. After loud playing I need to rest a little more. And then as I get through my routine I need to rest more and more and more and more. Otherwise I'm just going to get more fatigued. And so it's not just the same amount of rest. It depends on where it is in your routine, right? You're more tired at the end of the day. So anyway, I thought I did a really good job. And then he got it the next week again and he said, okay, this is great, but do you have, let's say it was 2.5 hours. And he goes, do you have 2.5 hours every day to practice? And I said, well, not really. And he said, this is only just your routine items. When are you going to practice your etudes? When are you going to practice for wind ensemble? When are you going to practice for orchestra, if you need to do those things? When are you going to learn the materials for your next recital? What about a gig? What if you have a gig and you have to practice for that? When are you going to do it? Aren't you going to be too tired by the time you get through this 2.5 hour routine? And I said, yeah, I guess so. He said, okay, so I guess you're not going to be able to do all of it. And then that was the end of my lesson. We didn't really talk about that anymore. We played some more, but he just kind of wanted to prove to me, look, you can't do everything you want to do every day. So, Dave, the answer to your question is not really. You can't really do it a better way than just doing different stuff different days. But a better way to think about it is what stuff leads into other stuff. And that's really the point of this entire stream so far is if I have something at the end goal and there's other stuff that I need to do that's going to help me achieve that goal, well, I don't ever need to do the end goal stuff more than maybe once a week just to try it out. And that would still be a lot. If I can't do this first thing very well, I'm not going to be able to do the thing that it's supposed to be trying to help me do down the line, right? So I want to spend extra time doing the more simple thing until it's really easy and really good. And then I don't want to go all the way to the end of the line yet. I just want to take one more step in that direction. So if you think about the categories that you might want to work on, and that's what I asked everybody to do at the beginning of this time, I want to work on my flexibility. Okay, great. Well, don't work on the fastest flexibility that you think is possible if that's not working for you. Work on something slower than that, right? But so you might ask, well, exactly where? Well, we talked about going back simpler and simpler until you know you can do it. That place is right next to the place where you can barely not do it, right? So if you think about range, let's say your range goes up to a G on top of the staff, totally super easy, and then an A above that is like a little bit hard. Not a lot hard, a little bit hard. Well, then you need to work a lot on G to A. G and A flat and A, and playing those notes easier and more efficiently and better with a better sound and for longer, right? And then when you can do that, then the A starts to become the easy note, and now it's B flat that's a little bit hard. You can probably play a high C and a D, but with much greater effort. And so what we're trying to do is iron out the change that's like we're getting the A and the B and the C and the D by any means necessary, but it's possible all the time. But we're really playing the trumpet the way that we want to, G and below, let's say, right? So I need to work on the barrier between where I start to transition into some bad habits and just make sure that I'm not doing that. I don't even need to know what those things are. I just need to work out that these things feel more similar. And I can demonstrate that, but I already sort of am, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to do. So let me do a little bit of that where I would say right now, I'm starting to change the way I play right at the top of the staff at this E. And so can we work that out? And what do we get if we do? Well, we get that range for free, basically, right? And then I want to just do that every day. So I don't want to be doing extreme high register if this is where my best work is happening. I want to do more of my best work. So there's probably the answer to your day on, day off kind of flip-flop shuffle question of routine stuff is you want to find the things that are actually really worthwhile right now that are going to lead into the things that you can't quite do, that you're not quite ready to practice efficiently yet, right? And do them more, and you'll get to those things sooner, and then you'll be doing those things instead, or you'll at least be faster at the things that you need to do to get there, right? And you can go quickly to the thing that's just a little hard for you, right? You want to always stay right on that, this is a little hard, but I'm going to make it easier today, okay? That way, you're always capable of growth. And then also when you have a setback, you know you need to rest because you're not going to make any progress. It's not like if you pound out high Ds all day and then the next day you're tired, you're like, well, of course I am. But when you try to just get G to A little bit more efficient and then the next day you can't even play G, it's really obvious all of a sudden you've played too much and you need to rest. And so maybe don't address that for a day or two and just play some nice long tones and don't overplay that day. That's what he says. That's what I'm struggling with. I figured doing all my routines with resting would take over 4 hours. Efficiency. Yes, that's right. So do the simpler things more and let them help you do the other things. And you don't have to be ready for prime time tomorrow. You don't have to do everything this week. You can do, and so, bring those into your lesson. This is one of my current students. Bring those into your lesson. Show me what things you work on and just hand them to me, right? We don't have to talk through it because I'd take the whole lesson just to talk through it. But I can go through and I can say, okay, don't worry about these things. I'll cross them off for you in like a red pencil so you can still see them. And then I'll circle the things that's like, okay, but these things are going to lead to those things being better. And so do these more and do these better. And then you'll know. And again, you can always try anything like once a week. Like I said, a spoonful will heal where a bottle full will cure or whatever. Don't overdo it, but do it a little bit because sometimes you're surprised, like, oh, I can do that. Wow. So, okay, let's play some more. I need to get this E back. But I also promised some double tonguing, and I think if we're careful, we can do both. So I need to, the beginning of this is one of my favorite things, and well, I want to do it for you. So let's see how it goes, and then maybe I can build some better habits by having some goals for how I want it to sound versus how it does sound. So this is the opening of Pluie de Trois. I haven't played these fingerings in probably 8 years. Oh no, that's not true. I played it here, so maybe 5 years. But I almost got them. So we got a little finger mismatch in the double tongue in the B dominant 7th chord section. But we did okay in the, what is that one? G dominant 7th one. And that makes sense because I probably played G dominant a lot more than B dominant, right? But so let's work that out. And I'm starting to notice that my low range, I'm really working my embouchure in the low range, and I think that's what's costing me the high range. So maybe I'm doing too much work down there. Maybe I need to do more different work, right? That's an accidental strong bad quote, if you know what strong bad is. S, more different S, is how you draw a dragon. But I mean it quite sincerely this time. More work of a different kind than I'm doing. Or maybe I just need to relax a little bit down there. Let's find out. I'm going to start the whole thing over, and then I'm actually going to work through it. So I'm not just playing it. But I do want to kind of get it into this like almost computer, like too fast for human consumption kind of speed that I know I can do. And he doesn't actually do this. Håkan Hardenberger just has such precision that it sounds faster than it really is. And when I listen to the record, I'm like, oh, that's way slower than I was trying to go. But I like it fast. I like if I can do it, I want to be able to do it, and I want it to be really poppy and precise, right? So let's try it out and see if we can make it sound like that, and also learn a little something on the way. getting a little tired, but that's so far we're doing pretty good, getting the precision that I want without a lot of like, ow, you know? So we've located a place that's not very clean, and it's just because it's like a lip slur tongue position, lip slur double tongue most of the time, and then there's one fingering in there, and then a third finger too, that it's just awkward, right? And it's just the down one that's not going well because, well, that's kind of down to what tonguing does, right? Tonguing has a little bit of plosiveness to it, so it gets you just a tiny bit of extra compression at the front, and so it's easier to tongue upward than it is to go down. Now that might not be the case for everybody, but for me it sure is. Dave says some more stuff. Let's look at what it says while I rest. I found that when I was in the Marines, playing marches every day hurt my high range when I had to do big band. Yeah. And doing some soft Clark #1 at the end of the day helped mitigate some of that. And yeah, that's absolutely right. That you're keeping your flexibility and making sure that you're not letting damage kind of sit. That's what I used to not believe in warming down either, right? People, this is very controversial stuff, right? Do you warm down, or is playing more notes just dumb, right? Once you're really wasted, what good do more notes do is one of the sort of prevailing theories, right? And for the most part, I'm on that side. I think hydration and rest is probably better for you, and like hot liquids and cold, compress like back and forth. Some chapstick sometimes, just making sure that your lip is healthy and so that it has time to heal, right? And like I said, rest is usually, there's no substitute for that. But when you've really crushed a hole into your lip after especially like really loud big band gigs, this happens, right? Then getting a little bit bigger mouthpiece on there, I sometimes use, I don't have it here, but my bass trumpet mouthpiece to warm down. And that's what Bud Herseth allegedly did after really hard concerts, is he just, the goal being that you're kind of keeping a larger, so you're changing where the rim is, and that way you're not re-damaging it, but you're also trying to get your air back in charge instead of just the crushing pressure. And I think that does go a long way. You can do that. That's kind of what Dave is saying on the stream, is that he's talking about doing Clark #1 really soft and the low ones, right? Yeah, it's really good for you. And if you do what Clark says, I used to not understand this either, but again, with age comes more understanding, if not wisdom, which maybe is the same thing in some cases. But anyway, he says in there that you should feel your lips tightening and loosening as you go up and down with that correlation. And I used to think, I think he just means staying the same, and there's more like pressure of the muscle use and less pressure, like maybe, but no, actually the tightening and loosening kind of does help you undo some of the crush damage but if you do it intentionally a little bit, right? And it keeps it soft and it keeps it pliable, and that kind of seems to be refreshing after a while. Your fingers do get tired on Clarks though. I don't know if you've ever tried it. It's another thing that I should probably work on, but my fingers just start running out of steam after about 3 minutes of Clarks, and well, no wonder, right? So anyway, let's get back to Pluie de Trois. So we got there, we got one of them. I would probably do it a few more times, though. I was going to play this piece soon. But we worked with the soft first, then we got the double tonguing worked out, and you heard some pretty bad notes in there, but I didn't let it phase me. I just kept going, kept trying to work it out, and get that tongue stroke just right. And then when we went faster, we could keep it kind of soft. I still used a little bit of air velocity to get it to work on the way up, and so it got a little bit louder. But I'm pretty satisfied with that. So that's one of the things that I think, you know, we're proving our point here, that like I have this goal and I'm working towards it, and I'm starting with things that I know I can try to do now with some probability of success. And if that doesn't work, then I just take another step back. And if that doesn't work, I just take another step back. And the vector, the direction and angle of those steps, right? What is a step back and what is a step forward, again, might be different for different people. And that's totally fine. In fact, it's expected and welcomed, because we're different people. And so we might have very similar goals. And so sometimes the steps forward are kind of the same, so to speak. Like the end goal is still in the same place. So it's like sort of like the magnetic north, right? All the compasses point to there, but we're all starting in different places along the globe, and so we're not going the same direction, even though we are going to the same place. And we also might, some of you might be going to true north, and so that's not the same place, at least not right now. Sometimes it is for a second, anyway. But okay, so what else can we play? Well, we did say that we would get back to this sort of solid sound sustain thing, right? And we're working on our endurance, like I said. So if we don't play, then we're not using our strength. And like I said, after the stream, I'm going to use this little tube thing, and I'm going to do it for as long as I can handle, up to, I don't know, probably 5 or 10 minutes. But you don't want to overstress your muscles either. That's a sure way to hurt yourself. So I'm not going to do it too long, but I'm going to build some lasting strength for tomorrow after I'm done playing with the tools. But until then, it's all going to be what I did on the trumpet. And so we're working, that was sort of working on our efficiency, right? And using some of our control to keep that in check. And then also perception, because we were tonguing a little bit harder so that we got that poppiness to come out, and I didn't have to shape each one of those notes. So let's play a little bit of this. This is Andante and Capriccio by Al Rizzuti for piccolo trumpet and B-flat trumpet. I'm just going to play some of the Andante, which is for B-flat trumpet. But it does go up to high A's on the first page. Let's see how much of this we really want to do. It goes up to high E's, but we've already played high, and I don't want to hurt myself. Like I said, I've been playing a lot, so if I don't feel like that high E is going to come out, then I'm not going to go for it. That's just asking for trouble tomorrow, and I need to play well tomorrow too, right? I need to play well every day. Today is not the last day that I should play well, if that makes sense, right? So. Forgot I wasn't supposed to use vibrato, but we're getting this good sustain. I'm trying to keep my my tongue position in the anchor tongue position, and that's opening my jaw a little bit. And so maybe that's why I have trouble with it, because maybe I can't do both. And so, well, that's something to think about then, right? Do I keep my jaw lower and keep my anchor tongue, or do I need to keep my jaw shut more and let my tongue be more traditional? I don't know, but we set up one thing today, and we're going to have to stick with it, because by the time I get done undoing that and doing something else instead, that's that fundamental and that we've worked on so much today, well, I'm going to be so wasted that it won't matter anyway, right? So, but this is such a nice piece. Let's do some more of the wiggly bits. I don't know. I haven't looked at this in a long while either, but. That's right. All right, we'll go a little slow, because I'm not gonna. If the fingerings are in the way, I'm not going to be able to do any of my good trumpet playing things, right? Because I'm worried about the fingers. And this is another common problem when you're playing through stuff. Don't go too fast, because if you throw all your good playing habits you just built out the window so that you can hack through the fingerings, it's not going to work. I did that one time. I did a stop and start. Bad habit, right? And there comes that fatigue. But as I'm using my support, breathing into my support, really good turnaround I think I'm doing, and a readied embouchure, I'm getting better and better results, but I'm getting it for shorter and shorter amounts of time. Not because I'm doing anything wrong or opening up or doing anything like that, but because I'm fatigued. I can feel it, right? You can always feel it when it's coming. So anyway, this is probably a good place to stop the stream. Now, if I'm stupid enough and my piccolo trumpet works, let's find out. Uh-oh. It sort of works. Okay, well, while I put valve oil on this piccolo so that it works a little better, this is my Shilky. Don't tell Yamaha. I am a Yamaha clinician, actually, and that is important to me. I do rep them because I think that they make the best instruments that are the most consistent and that allow me to do the most things that I want to do. Now, that doesn't mean I can't own other instruments that all do other stuff, right? And this Shilky was my first great piccolo, and I'll never give it up, I think. It's really fantastic. I've loaned it out 2 times ever, and I was so nervous both times. Not because I don't trust the people, obviously, but just because I'll never get another one like this. And so, anyway, let's play, because we're on stream and because we make bad decisions on the reg, we are going to play some of this Capriccio because it's fun, and we'll see how much I remember of the fingerings, but I just want you to get a sense of the piece. So you've heard the first movement is a lot like what we've played. We played most of the things that are in it. So this is the Capriccio, the second movement. Not the whole thing, just the, well, we'll see how far we get, right? Okay, close. Almost didn't make it, but we got a little piccolo playing in, and we didn't crush our lip. I thought about all the things we worked on, and I don't know if you noticed, you can rewind the video. I thought about what I just said, right? That maybe I can't do tongue position of anchor tongue rather, and keep my jaw closed. So I did anchor tongue, and then I just brought my bottom lip a little closer to the top lip before I started applying pressure, just to see if I could do it. And I used these bottom muscles to sort of push, to pucker towards the other lip, to see if I could get that set up in a little bit better place. And you know what? I wouldn't have got that high F if it wasn't set up right. So, or at least it would have hurt really bad. I would have flattened my lip out really egregiously. So that's a good thing. That is, I mean, it could be a little bit put on proof, right? I played a different mouthpiece, a different horn, all this stuff. But I don't think anybody would say that if I was playing the wrong way this whole time, then that could still happen, right? So that's good. That's a good thing. And it's also a good place to stop. Again, like I said earlier, don't overplay. It's better to think like, well, I might be able to play 5 more minutes, but I may as well stop now, than to be wrong about that and play the 5 minutes, and now tomorrow you're completely swollen when you start playing. So anyway, that's it for this stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun. And thanks to Dave for being really interactive. That helps a lot. Tell all your friends and get them to come, so that I barely play trumpet except to demonstrate answers to questions, right? Because that's more fun for me, and it's a lot more rest. All right, take it easy. I'll see you next time.